Metaphor Refantazio comes out next month, and I can't wait to play it. But even with amazing marketing campaign going on, there is one major issue with the game.
Persona 7000!
More science fiction, fantasy Persona.
This is literally Persona 5.
Renaissance Persona?
Wait, is this Persona 6 I'm going to Camille?
Don't let this happen to you! Today I'll show you all the differences between these two games, so nobody will ever be confused on the subject ever again. Let's see. They're spelled a little different. In all seriousness, I'm a bit concerned that people do not realize the differences between these two releases and only see that it's Persona, but in a fantasy setting. And hey, if you hold that opinion, that's totally fine. But I do think you'll find some distinct differences that you didn't know about by the end of this video. ATLUS hasn't necessarily done much to distinguish the two, so I'm going to do that for them, because I'm such a nice guy. Detractors from Metaphor believe it's too derivative, and we're expecting a traditional fantasy game with wholly unique mechanics from this new studio, and feel disappointed that it's just Persona 5 with a new coat of paint. And look, I get it. I played Persona 4 when I was in high school, okay? And I'm now 119 on my deathbed. And if you only play Persona, you might see a calendar system, followers, and the virtues, and think, dang, how'd they spend all that time and money just to end up making Persona 5 again? What are they, stupid? No, these are familiar-looking mechanics, and are included in the trailer quickly, without fully diving into them to make the trailer enticing. To make a good trailer, you want a good vertical slice of all the activities you can do in the game, because variety makes it appear your game is on the more multifaceted side. You don't have time to get into all the messy details. But I do. And I predict these comparisons won't really hold up once the game is actually out, because believe it or not, this kind of thing has happened before. Here's an example of two ATLUS games side by side. If you just show them to someone with no context who'd never played either, they think they're games of the same franchise. But no, these are games with similar ideas and concepts, but radically different execution. Yes, you're a silent protagonist living in Japan who negotiates with the enemy, adding their strength to your team. And then you fuse them in a blue room, but it runs way deeper than that. The reason people don't compare SMT to Persona that much anymore, well, most of the time, is that while Persona is derivative of SMT to a degree, if you play it for more than 5 minutes, the differences pile up real quick. You can do this with tons of games. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Oblivion, New Vegas, Earthbound, Dairy Queen. Tweaking something relatively minor can lead to massive repercussions. So hypothetically, if you're a Persona-only kind of guy and wondered what the differences between SMT and Persona were, a fan would be able to list them all for you with relative ease. And I'm gonna do the same thing but for Metaphor. It's got the same gameplay. On paper, you may see, oh wow, you hit an enemy with their weakness and get an extra turn. How original. But there's a reason they chose this approach. Experimenting's hard. Sometimes your experiment blows up in your face and you're left with chemical burns for the rest of your life. I can think of more than a dozen examples of games with divisive combat systems, because they experimented too much and fans didn't like it. The truth here is that all ATLUS RPGs are derivative of each other. But if you only play one ATLUS game, have you played them all? Not even close. It's easy to think that this is just Persona 5 again, given how successful it was and how many spin-offs we've gotten lately. But ATLUS are not perfect, okay? They screw up all the time. Remember smirking in SMT4 and how horribly unbalanced it was? Or how many people hated the AI control in Persona 3? Remember the entirety of the answer? I just don't believe it's an absurd thought for them to play it a little close to the chest and stick to what they know. And hey, maybe they did make a completely new and unique combat system. And it sucked. So they made this one and it played infinitely better. Do you want something novel, experimental, maybe a little rough around the edges? Or do you want what ATLUS believes is the best product they can make? So how similar is Metaphor really? Let's break this down with a Venn diagram. Starting with the overlap. Yes, the game has a calendar system, which is just like Persona, but only at a glance. In both games, the time limit is there to create a sense of narrative agency, and they accomplish this in two very different ways. In Persona, it's purely reactionary. Things happen to you that disrupts your normal school life. You resolve those issues and return to the status quo. Rinse and repeat until you leave. But in Metaphor, you are being proactive and doing the disturbing. Travel is heavily emphasized in the marketing for a reason. It's the main feature of the game. Your freedom to choose what to do, where to go, and how long you do it is the key point of contrast that you may not have picked up if you aren't paying close attention to the trailers. Of course, you will eventually come to a bridge where the game has to funnel you to see all the cutscenes they spent years making. In practice, it's similar to an open-world game with time-sensitive objectives, and the difference shouldn't be that hard to grasp once it's in people's hands. Followers are just confidants. Again? Are they though? Nothing other than the UIs indicated this. In Persona, you wear a mask and have to get your social links to like you more by usually telling them what they want to hear, resulting in your personas getting bonus EXP when you fuse them. So far in Metaphor, we know it's the system, which new archetypes unlock, and really that's it. Can you give gifts to your followers so they like you more and their story advances faster? If you say the wrong thing, will followers begin to hate you? And do dialogue choices advance your followers' rank faster? We don't even know that yet. If 3 music notes appear when you call Catherine cute, and she blushes, I will eat my words. But I've looked over every piece of gameplay footage for Metaphor, and haven't found anything like that. I don't believe this game has as many visual novel elements as one might think. Talking to your party and being rewarded isn't exclusive Persona either. It's a byproduct of having incremental side stories, focused around singular characters. And I can't think of a good alternative to this. Can you? If we already know that we can't date our followers, is it so hard to believe that the follower system isn't just a social link reskin and might have other unique characteristics? Most RPGs have a similar system. Unless your character is a charisma vacuum, I guess. The party members with side stories are common for a reason, because it's efficient and it works. If it's not broke, why fix it? Same idea applies to the combat menu, which people also criticize. Would Metaphor really be better if it had Dragon Quest combat list? I sure know which one I prefer. Archetypes and personas are the same thing. Well, they are both the functions that allow the characters to use magical abilities. But outside of that, what do they really have in common? The names are both of the Jungian psychology background, but a persona is a mask you consciously wear to get through your day. Whilst an archetype is an ancient symbol or instinct that has existed since we were cavemen. Personas are conscious. Archetypes are unconscious. This may appear trifling if you aren't interested in foundational psych, but I assure you, there is, in fact, a thematic difference, and archetypes really are a good name for them. Even if they are made by the same company, one of them is a translucent ghost that sits behind the hero, and archetypes are living weapons the heroes turn into. In gameplay, you also can't change your archetype mid-battle, and can't customize them as much as a persona. They have distinct roles and passives that support that archetype. They genuinely do some really cool stuff with them, and are way more interesting than personas. Let's keep it real. In Persona and SMT, endgame, you have an attacker with 7 passives and 1 damage skill, buffer, debuffer, and maybe a healer. That's it. While Metaphor has true team building, and classes like Tank, Thief, Tactician, and characters that scale off how sexy their outfit is. That goes hard, and she makes me hard! Archetypes are the coolest thing I've ever seen ATLUS do, and are thematically and mechanically separate from personas. If the designs just look the same to you, that's one thing, because art is subjective. But like, is this a persona? Is this a persona? Is this a persona? Where do we draw the line? Let's not be hyperbolic and discredit their originality. Some of y'all being real meanies, and I need to apologize to Soijima right now. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go over the extreme differences rapid fire, because these are, well, a bit more obvious. Persona. High school schedule. Monday to Saturday, same place, same time. Your schedule is decided for you. Metaphor. Bro, I'm running for president. I set my own schedule. Today we kill a dragon, and if we survive that, I'ma milk a cow. Persona. Once more and all-out attacks. That's it. I sleep. Metaphor, press turn, fast squad, Rose, synthesis, not even in the same ballpark. Persona, gee, I wonder who the traitor could be. Metaphor, Luis killed the king, and now go kill him.
So what are you wearing?
Well, not a lot.
Join me, and together we can build. Boy, what are you doing? That is a real-life goblin. He is going to kill us. He's also not a registered voter.
Oh, okay. Die! Die!
And I don't have skits for these, but in Persona, if the protagonist dies, it's game over, because without this, you could never lose a fight ever. Whilst in Metaphor, the entire party must fall for a game over, because it's most likely a harder video game. In Persona, you're mostly going to deal with Japanese people and their culture, with the occasional robot, sometimes an animal. Oh, and like 2 white women. Meanwhile, in Metaphor, you have a whole host of different races with their own distinct cultures and backgrounds interlinked into the narrative. It's way less homogenized. And the biggest difference in my mind is finally, there's no Lucifer, no Satan, no demonic crap. For 35 years, ATLUS has been putting esoteric and fringe elements into their games, like the Kabbalah, Gnosticism, Zoroastrianism, occultism, Hermeticism, Hinduism, cannibalism, sexism, plagiarism. Wait, sorry, I'm getting off track. What I mean to say is, finally, at long last, an ATLUS game's foundation isn't religion or psychology. It's based on socio-political satire. In a nutshell, Persona is about the human condition, good versus evil, what it means to be human, in an internal battle with the self, whilst Metaphor is more external, to critique the current status quo and find which way is the right way to rule, and does such a thing even exist? And this is a bit personal, but I'm really happy about this change in subject matter. Because when I tell people I do YouTube, and they look up my channel, I hate that the first thing that comes up is all this satanic crap. It's so embarrassing. You know, I've been thinking a lot back in 1996. How did SMT fans react to Persona being a thing? It's crazy to think, but this is the only other time this has happened for the company. And wouldn't you know, people actually had the opposite reaction back when SMT and Persona were arguably the most similar. The interview reads, "Persona's managed to capture the interest of non-Megaten fans. It's also been welcomed by longtime fans too. We've heard that a lot, yeah. This isn't Megami Tensei," followed quickly by, "But it's really fun." Will history repeat itself? Yes. Yes, it will. The only way they could genuinely avoid all Persona 5 comparisons is if they made something in a completely different genre. But we've known Metaphor was going to be a turn-based RPG from the very beginning, because talking your characters, transforming heroes, and non-combat stats are not exclusive to the franchise. If we all agree Persona and SMT are separate things because of their tone and gameplay differences, why can't the same thing be said about Metaphor? We've established it has unique ideas it brings to the table, along with ideas from their past work. That's what I'm saying. Metaphor isn't Persona. It's actually Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, Etrian Odyssey 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You get it. But you probably didn't play those games, so now you've been educated. In conclusion, it's true. Metaphor does have an identity crisis of sorts, but it's only surface level. I'm just trying to do my part as a longtime fan to inform people about this game, because it's really my dream game in every sense of the word, but the odds are stacked against it in a way, and these Persona 5 comparisons are not helping. Even if P5 is the best-selling ATLUS game of all time, not everyone's a fan. And if we keep comparing it to Metaphor, that could impact sales if people don't realize how it's different from its predecessor. Metaphor is also releasing the same day as Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, so that's bad. Some people think it's still an Xbox exclusive somehow. That's really bad. And think about it. If this game fails, that means the only thing people will buy from ATLUS are games called Persona. And that's just sad to think about. That's about all I got. Make sure to subscribe. I'm gonna make 1,000 Metaphor videos every other day. Bye.